Welcome to part 2 of the cigar box guitar build. In the previous video we pretty much prepared the neck. We drew in the fret lines, we drilled the holes for the tuners, we cut the notch to fit in the cigar box. In this video we will actually take the cigar box and prepare it to receive the neck. We will also be installing the tuners, installing the bridge and the nut, and preparing it to play, and you'll see a little sample of what the guitar sounds like at the end, although I apologize for my lack of skill in building and playing cigar box guitars. Next thing we need to do is we need to fit the top to the box. So the first thing on the box is to mark the center line. So I'm going to open the cover up. First I'm going to find where the center is. So this box is 9 1/4 inches long. So that means that the center would be 4 5/8. And we can do that on this box because the top goes all the way to the front edge of the box. So 4 5/8 in is the center mark. I'm going to mark that on the sides also. Now we also need to mark down the thickness of our neck, which is 3/4 of an inch. So 3/4 of an inch. Now the width of this, the neck again is 1.5 inches wide, so we need to mark 1.5 inches to either side, or 3/4 of an inch to either side of that center mark. We have to do this on each side of the box. And we have to remove the material. It's really hard to see because this is a dark box. But we've made a notch. We're going to make a notch 3/4 of an inch deep, 1.5 inches wide, right in the center of each side of the box. Now I'm going to take my handsaw and I'm going to cut down to the 3/4 of an inch. Cut all 4 verticals. Okay, now that we've got the it cut out to the sides, I'm going to take a coping saw and cut out the waist, if I can. we'll use files to refine the cutout. We just got to cut out the other side. Alright, so we used files to get the holes set. The cover needs to be able to close, which it does. So we're looking pretty good here. The next thing we have to do is prepare the box for sound holes, and then we need to locate the bridge. One more thing we have to do on the neck is we have to carve a little groove for the nut. So I'm just going to take a carving burr on a Dremel, and I'm just going to make a little groove right here. Right on the nut line. The middle of the groove should be right on the nut line because that's where the string is going to break on the screw. So you can see that it's a pretty decent groove. I'll just clean it up a little bit. With the nut now fitting in place, I'm going to take this neck and I'm going to give it a coat of polyurethane just for a little protection. The next thing we need to do is decide what we're going to do for sound holes. So I think what I want to do is I'm going to put 2 sound holes right below this label. Just 2 round sound holes. And I'm just going to do that with a Forstner bit. But you want to make sure you put a backer there, otherwise you'll get all kinds of chip out in the back. Alright, so we're going to want the sound holes where they're not going to disturb the label. So the neck is going up this way, the bridge will be somewhere in this area. Too bad because it's a nice label. So I'm going to make 3/4 inch sound holes. So in case of locating them, we'll bring them back from the front edge three and a half inches. And in about 1.5 inches. So that's one. Clamped on a backer board, and we'll drill it out. The neck is finished curing, so now we're going to take and mark where our bridge is going to go. So I'm going to just come from the nut and I'm going to make a mark here at the 23-inch mark. When we string up the guitar, we're just going to rest the bridge right at that location, and the string tension will hold it in place. You could use a little dollop of hot melt glue if you want to, and we may do that. But right now we're ready to get this thing assembled. And the only concern I have is this: the neck may be in contact too much with the top of the box. And if it does that, the top can't vibrate. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back over and I'm gonna just cut a little deeper into this, just to make sure that the cover doesn't keep the box, doesn't keep the top from vibrating. And I'm going to leave a little meat on the ends because I'm going to attach the screws here that hold the top closed. Alright, we're ready to begin final assembly. What I do have is I have some hot melt glue. We're going to put a bead of that along the inside of here to hold the box closed. And then we're going to install 2 wood screws to hold the top against, to hold the neck in place so it doesn't go flopping around. Don't know if the glue gun is ready yet. Okay, so we're going to apply that bead of glue. Press in place while the glue sets up. Alright, glue is set up, so now we're going to prepare for the screws. Alright, I'm using number 6 by 3/4 screws to hold the top onto the neck. I'm going to put 2 on each end, and I've got this bit which will countersink the screws. Get these 4 screws driven in, and then we're ready to glue in the nut. Alright, so now we've got the bolt that we're using for the nut. We're going to put another bead of glue in the little groove we made. And hold this in place until it sets up. The nice thing about the fact that it's a screw is the grooves will help hold the glue in place. Doesn't seem like we have enough glue. I'm going to put some actually in the threads. That seems to work better. Now we'll be ready to string it up. One of the next thing we have to do is install the tuners. And you can remember that we had our right and our left. So the first thing we need to do is to install the bushings in the tuner holes on top. These will guide the posts so that they don't bind. So we're just going to set them in place, and they should be pretty much a press fit. Just going to use a wooden mallet to give them a couple of taps just to seat them. Then we have we need to tap the hole. We want to pre-drill the hole for the screw. You don't want to go too deep with this because it will you don't want to come through. So what I usually set my drill bit as far in as I can go. It's kind of too short and too small to mark, but I know that I have to go about halfway. So halfway won't go through. So I'm just going to line it up on the tuner. And then I'm going to put a screw in. Now you want to use a little wax on these screws because you don't want them to catch, and if they catch, they could very easily strip. So I've got to get a real tiny screwdriver, tiny Phillips for these. Okay, so the wax is definitely helping that go in very nicely. Then I'll drill my next hole, and then I will continue with the other tuners. Alright, now that we have the tuners on and the neck is screwed in, we can now attach the bridge. And I think I'm going to hot melt glue it. I've drawn a perpendicular line, and we're going to move from there, and that way it gives us a guideline to put it in place. Alright, we're going to set the strings. The first string is a 42. Come up through the bottom. Across the bridge and the nut. And we're going to twist it around the post. Leave yourself, you want a few good wrappings around the post. getting some tone out of it. All right, we'll see what happens when we get it all strung up. All right. If I knew how to play it, it would be good, but I hope you've enjoyed the video, and go out and get an old cigar box and you can have an instrument in just a couple of hours.